Formatting your print book doesn't have to be scary. Okay, I'm going to use Atticus and I'm going to show you how simple it is. All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to format your print book, well, for prints. And we're going to start from a Word document, which you can export into a print ready PDF. Okay, so open Atticus, upload your book, and then do the usual thing, enter your book title, your author name, your project name, and I'm going to use one that I've recently done. So over here, it's I haven't really gone through the whole thing, edited the whole book. It's a thriller that I'm working on still. It's called The Hacker. Anyway, I haven't even gone through all the chapter numbers and stuff like that, right? But the point is, assuming this is the document that you're happy with, all right, go to the formatting tab, and then we are going to dig in to some of the details that you need to know about the paperback stuff, right? But that's the starting point, right? Open your book, upload your book to Atticus, check that everything is broadly over here in the table of contents on the left hand side, and then click on the formatting tab, and we're going to dive into what you need to know about this formatting for paperback. So assuming you've checked everything like the chapters and Atticus has imported everything correctly, on the formatting tab, what I would do is, number one, set this to print. So this is like the preview tab, okay? So the preview tab, you want to set it to print, okay? Now the reason you want to set it to print is because all the other stuff like iPhone, Galaxy, whatever, these are all like reflowable content. So the user, the reader, can actually change what they see. You know, so whatever they can change the font, for example, the font size. So all that is reflowable. But in print, they can't change it. They're gonna get a physical copy that's been printed off somewhere, print on demand maybe, and yeah, the print version is going to be a bit different. So keep your eye on the right hand side, because this is going to kind of form, um, it's kind of what you see is what you get. Okay, so you can scroll through the pages, you can scroll through the chapters, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you want to, if you're happy with all these, like what you see over here, um, these are kind of ready-made themes that Atticus has. They've already built it in. It's ready to go. You're welcome to use it. Okay, that is the simplest way to do it. So if you don't want any fuss, you don't want to mess with any of the settings, literally pick a theme, and export the PDF and check out the PDF. All right. So if you like this theme, click on export to PDF and then check out the PDF document. Right. So for example, we can do that. I'm just gonna. You got to give it a few seconds when you click on export a PDF. It's gonna go, you know, compile everything. The program Atticus is gonna compile everything, and it's gonna take a bit of time to spit out the PDF. But yeah, once you got the PDF, just open it and give it a scroll. So here's the PDF. Open it like I say, scroll through it, have a look, see if everything is everything looks okay. So you got your copyright page, as I mentioned, as you should always have, hopefully. I haven't filled mine in, but this is where your copyright page should go. Table of contents, make sure there's all the chapters and stuff appear correctly. There's the inside gutter, the outside, inside and outside margins. Okay, so I don't fiddle with those generally because they tend to be okay. The settings, and you can just have a look and make sure everything is flowing through. So that's the end of a chapter, for example, and the start of a new chapter. Obviously, I probably wouldn't choose this theme. By the way, it doesn't look very good in this case. But if you have better titles or something, it might be okay. So yeah, look at the PDF. This is if you have not or don't want to mess with any of the settings. Assuming you do want to mess with the settings, for example, you can go into over here, create a new theme. So if you go to theme on the top left hand side, create a new theme. That's when you can have kind of more control over the settings. Okay, so literally just go step by step. So chapter heading, for example, are you happy with the font? Maybe you want it to be a different font. Maybe you want to align it center or something like that. and you can basically change how it looks. So always keep your eye on the right hand side. This preview, okay, the preview bit. All right. Chapter title again, center maybe. Can have underline. So just play around with these things, and as I say, keep your eye on the right hand side for the print preview. See how it looks. Chapter subtitle. I generally don't mess with these things. You can upload your own image if you want. So use individual chapter images, upload your own imagery. They've got a link with BookBrush, but I don't use that myself. I get my images from places like deposit photos, or Adobe or something like that. So I don't tend to mess with that. So here on paragraph setting, look over here, right? There's drop caps or lead in small caps, and then you'll see this change slightly. And then you can say when to use first sentence formatting, beginning of chapter or every paragraph. So I'm using it beginning of chapter only. Subsequent paragraphs indented or spaced. So over here, these are indented, okay, indented. But if you're doing, say, it's more common in nonfiction, but you can have it spaced. So instead of having a paragraph that is indented, you could have the paragraph spaced. So you have a space between paragraphs. That's more common in, as I say, nonfiction. And literally just go through. I don't mess with the subheadings over here personally, but just go through every single setting over here on the theme on the left hand side. So scene breaks. Do you want scene breaks with image, scene break without image, or no visible scene break? And so on. Endnotes, PDF footnotes, the footnotes and stuff like that would be more like for nonfiction. And yeah, font size for the footnotes. I tend not to mess with those personally. And now margins, I definitely don't mess with these. But if you wanted to, if you want to have more control over your print document, then yeah, you can mess with the margins, and then you can reset margins if it goes too wonky, right? So over here, for example, there's the the outside 0.5. Inside 0.875 inches over here, 0.875, and then the outside is 0.5. So you could change this to 0.5 if you wanted to, and you could change that to 0.25, and then you'll see it changes over here, right? You got to give it a bit of time because it's propagating through the program. So yeah, I've just messed with the margin. You can see there's so little minimal space, and that's not, it's not very pleasing. People like to flip the pages, right? You would have to, I don't know, you need like chopsticks for fingers to flip that kind of page and not hit the words. So yeah, I just generally leave the margins as it is. Indents, again, I leave that as it is, but if you wanted to, you can have a wider indent. In my case, I've set the paragraphs as space, but I want to indent it for fiction in this case. So I'm going to go to indented, and then the indents, I can change it to whatever I want. Let's increase it 0.35 inches and see what the indent looks like. It's going to look really weird. But these are things you can play with until you are happy with what you have. So 0.35 is kind of much wider. You can see it's too much for me personally. Have a look, play with that. Now the layout priority, this is something I keep to widows and orphans, or you can have it as balanced page spread or best of both, right? So it depends on how many words that you think are going to end up like just one word at the end of the page or something, right? Then you might have to play with these two. I've always kept it to widows and orphans personally, but if you want, you can play around with best of both and see how it changes the print layout, right? Typography, EB Garamond has been fine for me. It's mostly, I'm fine with that, especially for my nonfiction stuff. I'm perfectly okay with that. You may want to see what else is available. I like Crimson Pro, but you know, I tended to go with EB Garamond, just easier on my eyes, Font size, I tend to just leave it at 10, but if you wanted, for example, if you're doing like a large print, right? Large print, you may have it at font 16, for example, and then it'll change. The line spacing, I think about 1.5 has been okay for me, but again, if you prefer something more or less, play around with that. So the font size I've changed to 16. The page count will obviously change because the font size has changed. So if you click on it, it'll show you you know, that chapter to see what it looks like. Anyway, let's go back to Atticus, and then header and footer. So this is where the page layout itself, okay, where you have the number, the page number, and title, chapter, and number. So this is the left page and the right page, left-hand side page, right-hand side page. This is how it looks. And you can play around with this. They've got a few options. I like to have it as this, the default setting, but I've seen others do it with any combination of stuff. And again, you can change the header size, the footer size. So the headers over here, the footers over here, and the font type if you want to play with that. I just leave it to default settings because that's what I'm comfortable with. Now, trim sizes. How big does your book want to be? How big do you want your book to be? I just go with whatever the popular sizes for my niche. The only caveat I would say is if you're doing like a short read, okay, so if it's like 15, 20K words kind of thing, that's a short read, a novella kind of length, right? I would go for 5x8, okay? What I have done in the past is I've done 6x9 for the short reads, and it hasn't turned out well because number one, people come up with comments like, it's just a pamphlet, it's not worth the paper it's printed on. Whereas, if it's a smaller trim size, then it has a bit more bulk in your hand, right? So that's just something to be aware of because I made that mistake. Anyway, once you've settled for all of this, the theme that you have decided on, save it as a new theme, and then you are good to go, right? I'm not going to save this, but there we go. And then once you're done, export it to PDF. Check out the PDF document that you have. Make sure everything lines up that you like it to look like that, like the drop caps or the whatever it is, the font size and stuff like that. And there's your PDF ready to upload to anywhere, Ingram Spark, D2D, or KDP, wherever, right? So that's it. Literally, I'm not going to save this theme, but yeah. So you have two options. You can just use the ready built themes that Atticus has done, or you can create a new theme and customize it yourself, right? And again, it doesn't take long. In a few minutes, you have a PDF ready to upload to many places. So just a quick recap. Basically, you import your documents, you adjust the document theme, you preview it from the PDF download, and then you can export the PDF. You can upload the PDF to wherever you feel like, right? And that's the way I would do it with Atticus. Okay. So if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.